Split personalities begin to merge, Priest tosses Balor, and the internet goes crazy after a crushing defeat. Of course, we're talking about Monday Night Raw, live from Boston, Massachusetts. Let's get into it. This is About Last Night on Rumble Rewind. Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by the Rumble Rewind channel. I'm Brandon, and today we're talking about the highlights from a stacked Monday Night Raw. This, of course, the go-home show of Raw leading into this weekend's Money in the Bank PLE, and I gotta be honest, it did not disappoint. Now, before we dive into the highlights, do me a quick favor. Scroll down below, hit that like button. While you're down there, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications. We're just a few subscribers away from our first goal of 200 subscribers, and we'll be sending one of you a CM Punk t-shirt and hat when we get there. So make sure you're subscribed so that you have a chance at that. All right, let's dive in. Here's this week's top 3 from Monday Night Raw. All right, in at number 3, we are talking about the Judgment Day. There is a lot of tension going on in the Judgment Day right now, all surrounding Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, who's out injured. But in tonight's episode, we saw Damian talking to Dominic outside of the Judgment Day clubhouse and asking if he's talked to Rhea. Dom says he's talked to Rhea and she's good. Priest calls him out for lying, saying that he just talked to Rhea Ripley and she is angry. Dom said he would handle it tonight, and Priest said every week it's the same thing. Actually do something. At this point, Priest enters the clubhouse and Liv is there with some of the other guys. Priest says that this is a problem, and Finn says we do have a problem, but it's Priest that's the problem. He said that Priest basically called them all sidekicks last week, said that the Judgment Day needs Priest more than Priest needs the Judgment Day, and he put his spot in Judgment Day on the line against Seth Rollins. Priest says, yeah, he did all of those things. He didn't intend to call them sidekicks. He says, how about this? We all need each other. And he says he has faith in himself to be able to beat Seth Rollins and remain in the Judgment Day. Finn says that since Priest won the World Heavyweight Championship, he has changed. Balor would later interrupt a Seth Rollins promo and blame him for all the issues that are currently taking place in the Judgment Day. At this point, Priest would come out and he would tell Balor that this was his business and Balor needed to step aside. At some point in this promo, Balor did attack Seth Rollins, and Priest actually pulls Balor off and kind of tosses him to the side. Rollins ends up super kicking both of them and then hitting Balor with the stomp. Priest hit Rollins with the South of Heaven, and that kind of ends the segment. Now later backstage, Priest grabs Finn and says he's happy that Balor is okay, but he needs him to stay out of his business when it comes to this match at Money in the Bank. Now, the Judgment Day story keeps moving along, and it continues to be well done. The cracks are getting more and more noticeable, more and more visible, and we're all just sort of waiting for the moment when Rhea Ripley comes back and what that's going to mean for Dom, for Liv, and for the Judgment Day as a whole. You know, this story was originally written with Liv as the face and Rhea as the heel. But when Rhea got injured, they kind of had to switch it. They had to flip it and make Liv into a heel because they know that Rhea is going to come back to a face welcome. She's going to come back to a huge pop. People are going to be excited to see her. So I have to say that WWE Creative has done a really great job of shifting this story and making Liv into the heel. Now the question is, where does the rest of the Judgment Day fall in once Rhea comes back? Now personally, I think we're going to see Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest sort of standing alone, and the rest of the Judgment Day remaining heel, with Liv Morgan being kind of at the helm at that point. And that's my hope, honestly. I'd love to see Finn Balor rise to some more prominence out of this and maybe even get a title run down the road. I'd love to see him feud with Damian Priest. I think that would be really, really good. And it kind of calls back to early in the Judgment Day story when Finn Balor and Liv Morgan, and at one point AJ Styles was trying to end the Judgment Day. So it could be really good. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see kind of some of the biggest antagonists against the Judgment Day become the Judgment Day. That's really good storytelling when they say that you either die the hero or live to see yourself become the villain. And so seeing this character arc of Liv Morgan, Finn Balor taking over the Judgment Day and becoming exactly what they were fighting against at the beginning would be really, really fun to watch. Tell me your thoughts on the Judgment Day. Tell me where we're headed as a whole. And who do you think is going to be the World Heavyweight Champion coming out of Money in the Bank? For me, it's a toss-up. There's a lot of good theories on why Seth Rollins will win. There's a lot of good theories on why Damian Priest should retain. I don't know the answer. I haven't kind of fully fleshed out my predictions yet. We'll be doing that later in the week. I'd love to know your thoughts before we get into that. Seth, for Priest, and what do you think of the Judgment Day as a whole? All right, next up, let's talk about what was the match of the night. This would be a qualifying match for Money in the Bank on the men's side, a triple threat between Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Ilya Dragunov. Now, what can I say? This match was an absolute banger. It ended with Drew reversing a brogue kick attempt into a Claymore to get the win over Sheamus, and all three men looked great in this match with the right guy going over. Honestly, Drew should get the win. It's going to continue to further that storyline with him and CM Punk. Now, there was some speculation that CM Punk was going to interfere and cost Drew this match, but it seems like they decided to hold off on that. Now, after the match, Drew said he's done nothing so far in his WWE run but tell the truth. He said he had a few more truths to share. One was that this Saturday he will win Money in the Bank, and two, he will be leaving Toronto as the World Heavyweight Champion. So it seems that Drew's plan currently is to win Money in the Bank and cash it in on the same night. All right, so I 100% expect CM Punk to get involved on Saturday, and I really hope it happens during the actual Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, I thought he might get involved this week on Raw and put Ilya in the Money in the Bank match, but I like where this is going, I think. So I hope to see Punk get involved in the ladder match so that Drew doesn't win that. Because I do think that if Drew were to win the Money in the Bank contract and then Punk were to get involved and cost him a match after he cashed it in, would kind of devalue the Money in the Bank contract, and it would waste this year's Money in the Bank contract. Honestly, Money in the Bank as a concept has been struggling a little bit since I came back into watching WWE. It really has lacked some of the star power or shine that I think it's had in the past. Priest cash in at WrestleMania was incredible, but all of the lead up to it was very reminiscent of Austin Theory's run with the Money in the Bank briefcase that really didn't go well or end well. And so I think that Priest was able to breathe a little bit more life into it, but if it gets wasted here, I think Money in the Bank will continue to struggle as a concept. Personally, I like Money in the Bank. I think it's a really good opportunity to make new champions. It made Edge champion for the first time. It's established people who were struggling to get into that scene, and I don't want to see it go away, so I do hope that they value it. I do hope that Punk costs Drew the ladder match and not a cash-in. So that's just my thoughts. Would love to know yours. Now, as I look at the field for this year's Money in the Bank on the men's side, I do think it's going to be Jey Uso or Chad Gable, but honestly, none of these guys really excite me as potential Money in the Bank contract holders. Of course, I'll have my official predictions, like I said, later in the week, but there's just a little preview for you. But tell me what you think, though. Was this the match of the night? What is Punk's involvement going to be on Saturday? And who is going to leave with that Money in the Bank contract? All right, before we talk about my number one story from Monday Night Raw, let's quickly talk through some other notable moments that I feel like are worth mentioning. First, Xavier Woods did beat Karrion Kross in a one-on-one match. It was kind of a follow-up from last week's match with Karrion Kross and Kofi Kingston. After the match, though, the Final Testament attacked both New Day members, and Kross put Kofi in an armbar that looked pretty brutal. It looked like he was trying to break it. Honestly, looked kind of like he was trying to break it for real, but obviously, it is what it is. Some fans are kind of beginning to speculate that all of this is leading up to a Big E return, which I think would be awesome, especially just for him as a person to be able to get back in the ring and be able to wrestle again, do what he loves. But I'm still, I'm just out on the New Day as a concept, and I'm not really interested in anything that they're doing, which is unfortunate because I am interested in some of the development that's happening with the Final Testament, and I hope they keep that going. But New Day needs something to happen. They need something to change in a big way. Now, kind of mentioning the Judgment Day, but Liv retained her championship over Zelina Vega with some accidental help from Dominic. But later in the night, Rey Mysterio actually would beat Dominic in a one-on-one after Liv's interference attempt went terribly wrong. She tried to apologize after the match, saying that she would make it right. So this Liv and Dominic story continues in this back and forth. Now, she had been really just successful throughout thus far, and so this is kind of the first time that Liv sort of dropped the ball and cost a Judgment Day member a match or something like that. So we'll have to see where it goes from here. She said she'd make it right, so we'll see what the demented mind of Liv Morgan has in mind for that. All right, we also saw a video package of Ludwig Kaiser saying that he was injured when Sheamus attacked him last week, and now it's his goal to embarrass Sheamus. So we'll continue that rivalry, I'm sure, once Kaiser comes back. I hope it's not a legitimate injury. Wish him well in his recovery if it is. Also on tonight's card, we saw Zoe Stark beat Ivy Nile and Dakota Kai to qualify for the women's Money in the Bank match, and the internet is losing it over Dakota Kai constantly being buried, and so am I. Anyway, there was a backstage segment later with Damage Control talking to Kathy Kelly before being attacked by Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. So that feud looks to be continuing. Maybe they're trying to write some stories around women's tag team wrestling again. Like I said in this video here, there is a solid women's tag team division that just needs good storytelling behind it, and maybe this could be something that happens in that vein or on the road to trying to reestablish some of that. Last thing we'll talk about before we move on to the number one moment of the night is Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. They had a segment leading into their match at Money in the Bank. Sami Zayn ran through his typical underdog talking points and eventually got speared twice. I think and I kind of hope that Braun Breaker is going to win the title at Money in the Bank. Now that said, I will probably get tired of Breaker's gimmick quickly, especially if he's holding a title. I think the way it's going right now, he kind of looks like when Goldberg won the US championship. And it was just kind of like, okay, now what do we do? How do we get it off of this guy later? And so I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that Braun Breaker continues to develop an interesting character, especially if he's holding the Intercontinental Championship. But we'll have to see where it goes. All right, let's talk about the number one story of the night. And for me, again, it's got to be surrounding the Wyatt Six. The show would open with Chad Gable interrupting Jey Uso's promo. The two of them would argue about who's going to win Money in the Bank and who they thought the Wyatt Six should be going after. Now, Gable would attack Jey, but Jey would turn the tables and toss Gable from the ring. Now, the lights would go out, and after sort of being haunted by Huskus, Ramblin' Rabbit, and Mercy, Chad Gable would slip away through the crowd. At this point, Nikki Cross would once again deliver a VHS tape to Michael Cole, and later in the episode, we would get to see its content. Much like the first one, we see a conversation between Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy. Now, there are many speculating that this would be an interview with another one of the Wyatt Six members, but it was Dallas again. Now, the first of these interviews was a very emotional, very raw, very personal interview style conversation from Bo Dallas, talking about what it felt like to lose his brother, how he felt like this was honoring his legacy, and all of that was so personal and so good. If you didn't see it, check out this video here. I'll tell you all about it. But this one was way more sort of story-driven, storyline focused. What it did, though, was it added depth, and it gave more of the group's and Bo's motives as to why they were doing what they were doing. Bo asked Howdy, how much longer are we going to keep doing this, and what are we even doing here? Bo would say that he was destined to do this. Howdy would respond and ask him, do you think you're special? And Dallas would say, to think I'm special implies that there are others who aren't, that there are others who are less than, that deserve to be forgotten. He said, we are the ones they abandoned, but we made them notice us. He said, we've become a family. And then he goes on to say, even now, there's false prophets berating and belittling their family for their own gain. He said, it's disgusting, and they must pay for their sins. Howdy asked Bo if he thinks it's his responsibility to make these false prophets pay for their sins, at which point Bo says, I am the voice of the reckoning. Howdy turns around and responds with, I am the reckoning. And it's at this point they begin to say, I am nobody, I am all of us, or I'm nobody, I'm all of them. And the two begin to merge into one person. You see, one will disappear while the other remains, and then vice versa. And it ends with Bo saying, I set them free. Then we hear Bo's voice coming from Uncle Howdy, and he says, there you are. And these videos really seem to be about Bo coming to grips with the fact that Howdy is in his head, that Bo is Howdy and that Howdy is Bo. And he's coming to grips with this fact that he's been the monster all along. Now, this reminds me of Fight Club. It reminds me of the Tyler Durden character coming to grips with sort of his split personality and some of the struggles that he was going through. This is very good, very deep stuff from Bo Dallas this week. Now, I, like many, assumed that we were going to get an interview with another one of the characters, but it seems that this direction is the way that they're going, digging into Bo a little bit more. And honestly, this was incredible. The psychological nature of all this really shows Bo's struggle to come to grips with who he is, what he's lost, and what he's supposed to do now. I mean, when Howdy asked Bo if he believed it was his responsibility, that's when it all really comes together. That's when Bo kind of decides that not only is he the voice of this thing, but he is this thing. He is the reckoning. And it seems to be where Bo truly accepts who he is and what he's supposed to do as a result. The man behind all of this right now, Taylor Rotunda, playing the both characters, right? He is really beginning to shine and really coming into his own. There were a lot of questions at the beginning of all of this as to whether or not Taylor Rotunda could carry it. Could he be the front man? Could he step into Bray's shoes and out from behind Bray's shadow? And I've got to say, so far, I believe that he's the perfect guy for the job. The more I see, the more I want to see, the more I see this storyline develop, the more I believe that Taylor Rotunda has the stuff to be a top draw in this company and has the stuff to be champion if he wants to. But that obviously all depends on how this translates out of pre-taped segments and into live TV, into backstage segments, into the ring for matches. If he can pull those things in as well, then there's no limit to how far Taylor Rotunda can go with this character and in the WWE. But you tell me your thoughts, though. Tell me your thoughts on the Wyatt Six so far, especially with this segment and the Bo Dallas Uncle Howdy storyline development thus far. I'd love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. All right, overall, though, for this show, I've got to say, as I was watching it, it felt like it was sort of just slogging along. But as I look back, it was actually really, really good, especially for a pre-PLE sort of go-home show. Normally those can be kind of feel like a lull, just a waiting game, but this one actually pushed some stories forward. It had a lot of things that were interesting and a lot of things that were worth tuning in for. Now, the Wyatt Six story continues to be incredible, and the Judgment Day is really beginning to turn towards what I feel like is something big. You know, we're waiting for Rhea to come back. We're waiting for the eventual fallout between Finn Balor and Damian Priest, and I do feel like we've turned a corner and we're headed towards some sort of payoff. There's a lot of speculation that Rhea's coming back at SummerSlam, and if so, I expect the Judgment Day story to kick into a really, really high gear between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. Now, the Punk versus McIntyre feud is in a bit of a lull. As Punk is away, he's selling that attack from Drew McIntyre from SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. But tonight, the match and the post-match interview actually allowed this story to continue to develop. All in all, I'm looking forward to Money in the Bank and the upcoming road to SummerSlam that we're going to start right out of that. But that said, I've got to give this episode about an 8 out of 10. Like I said, it was a really good episode. The storyline development was there, but it was kind of lacking for me in the sort of jump out of your seat, big pop from the crowd excitement. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think I got it right, if I missed it. Did I miss something that it was that level of excitement or that level of pop? How would you rate this episode overall? And let me know in the comments, what were the highlights for you? Well, hey, that is it for today. Before you go, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on your post notifications so you never miss an upload and so you'll be among the first to know when we hit our goal of 200 subscribers and announce our winner for the best giveaway in the world. Thanks for stopping by Rumble Rewind, hanging out with me for a little bit today. I'll see you on the next one.